We completed an 8-hour workshop
when he picked up the phone himself personally and called an unknown Louis dancer to congratulate him for downloading the 10th billion song on iTunes.
Know your product inside out. Know your competitors inside out. Because if you do, you have an advantage. You have freedom of mind.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our friends and fans from around the world. Welcome to the 8th episode of the Customer Experience Show. And if you're watching it for the first time ever, note that this is a show where we have the brightest and the most differentiated minds when it comes to customer experience. In the second part of our show, we will be taking questions from the audience. So our business development manager, Sofia Shilimindri, will take on your questions. So feel free to share this episode, send your questions in as we're talking with Sonu. And now let me introduce our guest. He's one of the pioneers of the hospitality industry. His resorts are synonymous not only with elegance, but also with sustainable development. He's a descendant of Indian parents, and Sonu was born and also studied in the United Kingdom, and he spends periods of his education in Nigeria and Switzerland. He's an alumnus from the Eton College and a graduate of Oxford University, where he earned his MA in English Literature. During his time at Oxford, Sonu met his Swedish-born wife, Eva, hence the name Soneva. And they fell in love with the Maldives and probably with each other and leased an island there in the 1990s. After considerable effort and some good luck, their first resort, Soneva Fushi, opened up in 1995. We welcome Sonu to our Customer Experience Show. Sonu, it's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. It's an honor to be here. It's very kind of you.
It's a pleasure. Just before we go on to ask our first question, do you mind if we show just a little video so people can admire what you've done there together with your wife and the other co-founders?
Certainly, of course. Please go ahead.
Sophia, we're going to watch a 3-minute plus something video. Please. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share Soneva with you. It is my intention to allow you to get under the skin of Soneva, hearing directly from one of the founders of our philosophy, our values, and really what makes us different. Let me begin by explaining that Soneva is a family business. My name is Sonu, and my wife's name is Eva, hence Soneva. We're a couple that is passionate about what we do, and importantly, who consider ourselves guardians, not owners, guardians of places that have existed long before us. Our unique vision is inspired by nature, nature's magnitude, mystery, and enchanting beauty. Founded on shared passions and masters of innovation, Soneva is a thriving community working hand in hand with the environment to craft beautiful, beyond bespoke experiences where discovery is a way of life. At Soneva, luxury, wellness, and sustainability are not opposites. They are triplets that work together in perfect harmony and complement each other. How do we achieve this? The guiding principle that structures our creativity is the phrase, intelligent luxury. In this phrase, we are considering the Latin origin of the word intelligent, intellego, which essentially means to understand. Luxury is a philosophy. Essentially, luxury is that which is rare. Touches a chord in one's heart when one experiences it. Having a fresh salad that was plucked in the morning from the garden. Or just simply sit outside and enjoy a dinner under the stars. An evening cruise when the weather is calm and the waves are small, where it is almost guaranteed to see dolphins, or watching the stars through the largest telescope in the regions we operate, and having someone like Buzz Aldrin, the second man on the moon, or simply our resident astronomer, explaining that there is an entire universe out there. These are all rare experiences for the urban rich. So at Soneva, our brand proposition is inspiring a lifetime of rare experiences. Why rare? Because that is essentially what luxury is. Why experiences? The cupboards of the wealthy are full, their garages are full, and a majority of the wealth spent by the urban rich today is on experiences. One might be one of the richest people in the world, but can one walk barefoot for a week? We look forward to welcoming you to Soneva soon.
Great video, Sonu. You put the effort. Congratulations both to yourself and your team for doing so.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
So the cupboards of the wealthy are full, their garages are full. What is it that you are giving them as an experience to make them more fulfilled? What's the one thing that you're giving them?
So luxury is a word that's been, if I step back a second, just a little bit before, as an answer to this question, as a non-question, answer to this question. I believe strongly that companies must have a purpose beyond just enriching shareholders like my wife and I and our partners and paying our employees a salary. And when that can happen, that can be very important in terms of host engagement, in terms of having a business that is sustainable for the long term. And I think in the 21st century, it's important, it's vital that takes place. And our purpose at Soneva is slow life. Engaging and imaginative slow life. Essentially, our purpose is to offer our guests luxuries whilst minimizing our impact on the planet and enhancing their health. And we do that by firstly questioning and challenging what is luxury. It's important to be creative, but creativity needs structure. It's a bit like that bullet train in Japan. It won't go anywhere without the railway track. And that railway track that drives our creativity and our innovation is this phrase, intelligent luxury. We're looking at the Latin origin of intelligent, intellego, to try and understand what luxury is about, because it's a misused word. And of course, the context of the successful who can afford to stay with us has changed as well. Historically, people who would visit us were the landed gentry. They'd inherited their wealth. They were in the country, living in the countryside with a lot of fresh air, fresh food, space, privacy. Today, it's the opposite. Today, people who come and stay with us, they're self-made and they're urban. And a lot of what the successful in the past took for granted is now rare. It's difficult to have fresh food in an urban context or have fresh air. It's almost impossible. Privacy and space are at a huge premium. So hence our brand proposition of inspiring a lifetime of rare experiences. Why rare? Because that's essentially what luxury is about. It's a philosophy. It's not about objects. Sometimes people say gold and marble is luxury. No. It's essentially that what you don't get every day. It's something that's new to you, that's not commonplace, but also true, which rings a chord in your heart. So hence inspiring a lifetime of rare experiences. And it could be something as simple as for someone who comes from an urban context, you could be the richest man in London or Paris or Bombay, with your home that is 40 stories, but can you have a fresh salad from the garden that was plucked that morning, or watch a movie where the stars are not just on the screen, or seeing the stars through one of the largest telescopes in the Indian Ocean and having some experts like our resident astronomer, as I mentioned earlier. So that's really what we do. That's why we create these rare experiences and these experiences where we work hand in hand with nature, as I touched upon earlier in the film, to create these unique experiences that for our guests are truly rare and unforgettable.
Excellent. You answered another one or two of my questions. But what I see here is a company and co-founders that have a clear purpose, and that you're slowing life from the fast track to a more slow life, which is sustainable, and at the same time creating experiences that will last a lifetime, if I understood it well.
Pretty much, yes. And also enhancing people's health as well. Wellness is also very important to us.
That's very important. I read somewhere that you want to be an employer of choice and that you prefer to hire local people. And one of the resorts that I train is an amazing resort. It's Costa Navarino. Yes, the management and the team, they also hire local people. And there must be a secret to this recipe. Can you please tell us why you prefer to hire local people and what's the point behind it?
Yes. So yes, a couple of things. So firstly, I've never been to Costa Navarino, but I've heard great things about it. And Achilles, the owner, I'm not sure if his family is still involved in it.
Konstantakopoulos, yes, they are still involved.
Okay.
Yes.
So I remember meeting him for lunch once, many, many years ago, before he was building it, and I've been meaning to go and visit. But it sounds like an amazing property. But in terms of why local is important, that there are quite a few reasons for that. So firstly, my real role as CEO, and I believe it's the most fundamental role of any CEO, head of a company, is to create a culture. My title on my business card says Guardian of the Culture, because that's what the CEO should do. They should create beliefs, values, a philosophy that creates a culture that drives behavior. And language is a key driver in behavior and culture. So we have a Soneva dictionary. Before you arrive at our resorts, we have a Soneva dictionary with about 400 words. And one of the words is host. So we don't have employees or associates or partners or whatever else other people would refer to their employees as. We have hosts. And you can imagine arriving on an island with 400 hosts or an island with 400 employees. The guest experience is completely different. Now, if those hosts are guest workers, are they really going to treat you as a host to the same extent that someone who is a host who happens to come not just from the Maldives or from Thailand, but from the actual island nearby where we're operating? So here at Soneva Fushi, where I am now, our first resort, which we opened in '95, as you've touched upon, most of our hosts don't just come from the Maldives. About 70% of our total hosts come from Malos and Edafushi, the two neighboring islands. So they really do feel like hosts because they're welcoming guests to their country. I mean, it's very nice when some hotel companies promote people from their brands and their resorts throughout the world. So you might meet someone when you go to a luxury hotel, you might meet someone from the Egypt hotel or the Thai hotel or the Indian hotel. But at the same time, you're not really experiencing the local culture. So when you come to the Maldives or when you come to Thailand at Soneva, you're meeting and engaging with Thais and Maldivians. And they're very proud because we won so many awards. And the more awards we win, the more proud they get and the better the service goes. So I remember we opened in '95. And about 6 months before opening, we're in the Bar Atoll, so about 60 miles north of Male. It's only 20 minutes with a float plane. But in those days, you had very little air transfer. We actually brought it in with some Russian Milades. And we were building the resort. And prior to that, I would go on this rigid inflatable boat like you have in the North Sea.
Yes.
And go up there. And then as we were coming close to opening, one of these Bulgarian helicopters arrived. It's a Russian Milade supplied by the Bulgarian State Helicopter Agency. It was on an ACMI, Aircraft Crew Maintenance Insurance deal. So it came and we used it to fly up to Edafushi, where the capital of this atoll where I am today, '94. And it was like E.T. had landed. The schools closed. The wounded from the hospital came out. Everyone just came out to see what had actually happened. This was '94. They'd never seen a helicopter before. They had no idea of tourism. Because tourism was just in the Male Atoll, where the capital was. It hadn't gone beyond the Male Atoll. Anyway, 6 years later, the readers of Condé Nast Traveller UK voted us the best of any category. Not just the best beach resort in Asia, but the best of a city hotel, the best of airlines. We won the best of the best, all categories that Condé Nast Traveller's readers award and rate. And when we won that, our hosts became even more proud and the service became even better because they had confidence and they really didn't want to let the side down, and they were showing pride in supporting their community. So I believe local is very important, and Slow Life is an acronym for Sustainable Local Organic Wellness, Learning, Inspiring, Fun Experiences. So the first L in Slow Life stands for local. So that's why it's very important.
May I ask another question? It's about your vocabulary. Can you share with us another word or two that you use in that 400-word vocabulary? I'm very curious. As a trainer, I'm very curious to see. I love the first one.
Okay. So we have, I'm just thinking about ones that are the most meaningful. We have core. So we don't want to have too many layers in our organization. So we have 4 layers. So I'm a member of the core, and we follow the planets. So we have the core, then we have the inner sphere. That's the senior management, like the general manager of a hotel would be an inner sphere, or the hotel manager, or the executive chef, or the executive housekeeper. And then the next level down, the supervisors, they're the dynamosphere. And then the hosts who deal with our guests, they're part of the atmosphere level, and they're creating the atmosphere. Another perfect example is life. I mentioned Slow Life. Life is an acronym for Learning, Inspiring, Fun Experiences.
Excellent.
Every hotel uses the uniform system of accounts. It's the American Hotel and Motel Association. They've created a standard P&L format, which every hotel uses, because if you're managing someone else's hotel, the management agreement always talks about, we always own and operate our own hotels, so we don't manage any other hotels. But if you're Four Seasons or Ritz-Carlton or St. Regis, you're entering into a management agreement with a hotel owner, yeah? And they use the uniform system of accounts. The American Hotel and Motel Associations, it's I think the 17th edition now. They use that as a form of P&L that everyone knows is the standard. So it's irrefutable. It's a big volume. So there's never any dispute, because we can always refer to what it says there. And they have 3 sections in the uniform system of accounts. They have rooms, they have food and beverage, and then they have MOD, which stands for Minor Other Department. Now, that may be fine when you're a motel. You know, a majority of the members of the American Hotel and Motel Association are motels. People stay overnight. They just use the room. They hardly take any food and beverage. And there's no minor other department. You know, possibly they may use a fax machine once, or they may make a phone call. In our resorts, life is the whole thing. So if we called it minor other department, how would the spa manager or the tennis coach or the person who takes our waste glass, we ban branded water in our hotels, no Evian, no Vitel, we still have that bottle of Chateau Chem and turns it into a work of great beauty, or the spa therapist, or the fitness manager, or the barefoot butlers, or the water sports team, or the windsurfer, the dive master. How would they feel if they were called minor other department? If they wouldn't feel good. Whereas instead they're life. They're part of the life team. And that immediately motivates them to drive performance. So language can play an important role. So our Soneva P&L doesn't say MOD. It's knocked out. We scratch it off. And it says life. We use all the other headings and subheadings, but life instead of minor other department.
I love this culture and this mentality of inclusion. Well done, Sonu.
Thank you.
A question for people mainly in the hospitality industry, but if it can apply to everyone else, I will be more than happy to listen to your answer. What would you advise people in the hospitality industry, people who run hotels or who own hotels, to do during these challenging times? Is there something they can do in order to preserve their brand, have a profit, and continue having a healthy business?
Yeah, it's been a terrible crisis for many people, and everyone. We've all suffered, and I feel quite blessed. I feel that we've managed to weather this better than I'm sure others have. We've been in a very fortunate context, and I'm very sorry for those who've been badly impacted. And I'm quite old now. I'm celebrating 30 years in business, and I've gone through many crises, as you can imagine. And in the early days, I used to hate them, but now I look at crises with a positive attitude, and I look at them as opportunity. And I take a lot of comfort from Chinese wisdom. The Chinese word for crisis is two characters. You know, their writing is different designs. And so one character represents danger, and the other character represents this idea of change and opportunity. And that's really the Chinese word for crisis. It's these two characters. And I think it's true. You know, once in a crisis, one needs to address the danger and make sure that one is safe, one's family is safe, one's business is safe. Once you've done that, it's a fantastic opportunity for change. And if you embrace it, it can be very fortunate. I had a serious health crisis back at the end of 2018. And I did embrace it in that way. And in fact, Eva and I, the other day, we were having a drink, watching the sunset. And we listed out 40 reasons why we were happy. And I benefited for, and why I was grateful for this very serious health crisis I had at the end of 2018. It was a health crisis that most people would say they wouldn't want it ever on themselves. And if I rewrote history, I'd still write my history with it in it. Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher, says that good fortune has its roots in disaster. So if you can take a crisis with a positive attitude, and there always are things to learn from a crisis. You learn who your friends are. The leopard shows its spots in a crisis. There's opportunities to focus on inefficiencies and other aspects, and you have time to pause. And if you look at it in a positive way, as Lao Tzu says, you can, good fortune has its roots in disaster. You can sow some seeds that will reap some trees of good fortune in the future. So that's my view on crises.
Sonu, just before we invited you on the show, I admired you for what you have built. Now I admire you also for how you think. And thank you very much for this amazing lesson for all of us. We have a lot of questions coming in. So I will ask my last question and then pass the microphone over to Sophia to ask the question, because there are a lot of people also from the hospitality industry asking questions. My last question is the following. For hoteliers with limited budget, they might not have the location you have, they might not have the premises. How can they provide an immaculate customer service, even if their budget is limited?
Well, I think the customer service, when you ask people, in hospitality, what defines service and quality of service and luxury is the passion, the magical service that employees give. And so when you have a very employee-centric philosophy and organization, where you first focus on creating a culture, a values, philosophy that inspires your employees, that can inspire them, and that leads to magical service. They're engaged, they're passionate, and they create magic. Magic can only be trained to an extent. It has to come from the heart. So if you can create a culture to stimulate your hosts, language, the way you behave, how you inspire them. If you can turn the light on when you walk into a room or a meeting, and then you turn many lights on during the week, that leads to fantastic service.
Thank you. Excellent. It's not about money. It's about passionate people turning the light on when they walk into any room. Sophia, can we go on with some of our questions? Is that okay with you, Sonu? Because we have a lot of questions coming in. Yes, Sophia.
Sure. Of course. And I have to say, I'm impressed by the amount of questions we are getting, Sonu. So we have two people, Kate King and Nikos Kalika, asking about generating new ideas. So how do you engage your host to generate new ideas? How do you find new ideas to create luxury experiences?
Yeah. It's very important to have innovation and to be innovative, as I mentioned earlier. But innovation needs structure. So if you have a clear guiding principle that drives and guides your innovation, so for us, it's intelligent luxury, which is questioning and challenging what really is rare for the wealthy today and the context they're in. They're in an urban setting. So what would be a rare experience for them? So we have that structure, that guiding principle that drives our innovation. Once you have that, it's easier to be creative. It comes easier because you're all focused and channeling. And then bottom-up innovation. We have structured innovation sessions where we get teams, cross-functional teams, through the whole spheres. I talked about the core, the inner sphere, the dynamosphere, and then the atmosphere. We ensure that there is, in a cross-functional innovation team, apart from representing each team, we ensure that there are people from the atmosphere level, the dynamosphere, the inner sphere. So you've got those brainstorming sessions going on. We have events called the Energizer, where we do a lot of brainstorming, a lot of workshop. There's a big focus on creativity and innovating. And then, of course, we listen to our clients. So if a client says that they will not return or not recommend us, I immediately get that email. For our top 300, 400 loyal guests that have been coming back year after year, I see their guest satisfaction survey. We get about 60 to 70% of our guests complete the guest survey.
Excellent.
Wow. And I think that answers the next question, which was, how do you turn a first-time guest into a long-term relationship?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a point there as well, as I'm a big believer in the service recovery. So Barry Sternlicht, when he took over Starwood Hotels, introduced Six Sigma. It's a concept that companies like Motorola or General Electric used. The idea is one defect in every million, you know, 0.6. So one defect in a million experiences. It makes sense if you're making a plane engine like General Electric, going over, you know, I've been on a Singapore Airlines flight going from Singapore to New York, and you go over the North Pole. And at that point, you thank God that they use Six Sigma. And they have only one failure in a million, you know. When you know there's no civilization anywhere, so you don't want that engine to fail. But in the service industry, we're human beings. So Starwood using it for hotels, in my opinion, was a mistake, because we're human beings, and when you can make a mistake and recover, it can be very powerful. So our most powerful relationships with first-time customers is when we screw up. And then when we fix it and we do it better than ever. We've had clients who've been so loyal, clients who've actually almost threatened to leave. They were going away the next day to another resort. They stayed, and now they've come back 10, 15 times. 55% of our business here at Soneva Fushi, where I am, is return guests.
Congratulations.
Wow.
It doesn't mean we're full of mistakes all the time, but all I'm saying is that the service recovery, we call it the slow lifeline. It can be a very powerful tool for creating customer loyalty.
I think Sonu answered a few more of the questions that were in that came in. Yeah,
Definitely. And I have to ask this question because every time we have this show, people ask this question, and I think they are looking to hear different opinions about it. So we have George, and we have Christine, if I'm not mistaken, asking, what is the difference between customer service and customer experience, in your opinion?
Customer service and customer experience.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So obviously, service is so service is obviously the delivery of what you're giving, and the experience is what the end user is getting. But Danny Mayer talks about it very well in his book. You know, Danny Mayer, who has Union Street Cafe, the big restaurant chain, and he talks about. I'm not sure if he uses service and something else as a word, but that exceptional service is the same things that I've been talking about, where you have that passion and where you go that extra mile. And you know, one is a transactional, and the other is where you go beyond the transactional and you just surprise and delight. You know, it's that special attention that people weren't expecting, the surprise, the shock. And that's something we try and train and instill in our hosts. We reward moments of truth where people do make that extra mile. And we do encourage people to blow away the client with something that shows that they've anticipated their needs.
Very good. Very good answer.
And I think that's the main differentiation from your competitors, because I have Christine here, Christine Virardi, asking, what is the, how do you stand out from your competitors?
Yeah, so I think that's it. I think magical service can be trained only to an extent. It has to be instilled, and it has to come from the gut and the feeling. And I think by having a purpose that goes beyond enriching shareholders like Ava and I, by engaging, by both hiring local and engaging with the local community, we managed to create, find a local host who becomes passionate and proud to be a Sonevian. And I think that drives him to want to get up every morning and create magic for our guests.
Fabulous. If you allow me, one last question, and then we close it off. From Sonu Friu, he's asking how to build trust on a cross-cultural team.
Yeah, I think by focusing on values and beliefs, so you break any cultural barrier because you create your own culture. So as I talked about earlier, my role is the guardian of the culture. If you create strong values, strong philosophy, strong beliefs, strong way of doing things, we have our Sun card, which every Soneva host has, which is here. This is our Sun card. Why the Sun card? Because I said earlier, our organization is like the planets. You have the core, the inner sphere, the dynamisphere, and then the atmosphere. And so the sun is, we all depend on the sun. Without the sun, we would not survive. And as an organization, without our Sun card, without our values and our philosophy and our beliefs, we wouldn't survive. And I think by focusing on values and beliefs in common, you break any boundaries and barriers because you have that in common. And then engaging as much as possible with communities and demonstrating that you have a purpose beyond just enriching ourselves. So, to reinforce our Slow Life core purpose, a few years ago, we set up the Soneva Foundation. It's a UK charity. There've been no donations. We haven't donated a penny. It's all come from changes to the way we do business. So we banned branded water a few years ago, back in 2008. No Evian, no Vitel, just water bottled on site. Apart from the obvious ecological benefit of taking a linear process and making it circular, where we take our tap water, we purify it, add minerals, we put in our recycled, clean bottles that come from the bottle washer. We also found there was a financial saving. We saved 18% of water revenues. That 18% has given 800,000 people, 450 projects in 50 countries, access to clean water. So it was a perfect example of a small change to the way we do business, did not affect our profitability, but raised a lot of capital for good cause. And now that money is supporting the local communities where we operate to eliminate single-use plastic. We've set up water bottling plants at the local islands, waste to wealth centers where we take their waste and we turn it into an asset on the local islands. And of course, that our hosts are passionate about, because they go back to the local islands. People say, thank you, Soneva, your the company you work for did that. And they come back to the island and really charged and energized and proud of what they're doing. I'm sorry about the background noise. It's raining a lot here. Sorry.
It's okay. No worries at all.
It's been clear weather for about 2 weeks, and today we have the rain.
They need to experience everything about Soneva, so it's good. Started with the sun.
Exactly.
Definitely. Okay. Thank you very much, Sonu.
It was great. Thank you.
Let me make a recap and say thank you to all our fans and friends. We were very honored to have this guardian of culture today, Sonu, which talked about having a purpose. In their case, it's about slow life, it's about sustainable life. He told us that money is not important as much as their people are, because they are the ones who are turning the lights on for each and every guest. Thank you very much, Sonu, for being on the show. It was a pleasure and an honor, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person as well.
Thank you. Please come and visit, Michael. It'll be a pleasure.
It will be a pleasure. And if you stay on, Sonu, just thank you very much, dear friends and fans. Feel free to share this episode so we give other people who were not present today to see it recorded, because Sonu has just shared many gems that would be useful not only for people in the hospitality industry, but for anyone who's running a business or a life. Thank you very much.